So Wallsend, 84 miles. Good luck go with you. Yeah, indeed. Good morning. Not that you can actually see me because I got my camera light in the way. Right, so it is 3:33 in the morning. It's the 14th. Obviously today's the most important day because England are playing Spain. But on top of that, we're going to try and run Hadrian's Wall. Let's see how this goes. This is called procrastination.
I'm going to sit down for pretty civilised.
It is. Ah, there you go. The end of Hadrian's Wall. Yeah, we're not going to see this one.
We finished it.
That's it. Look at that. Easy peasy, nice and see, people complain about this. Just coming twilight. 4 miles down. Yeah, 4 miles down exactly. And it's raining, as you can probably tell, which sucks. But it's only drizzling, really. Unfortunately, it's going to rain all day. July. Summer in the UK. You've gotta love it. So today is where we take 800 miles worth of training to run 84 miles across the country from the west coast to the east coast. So this route is slightly different to the standard Hadrian's Wall path, and indeed the organised ultras that you may come across, because we're in it for the scenery and the enjoyment as much as just covering the miles. This means, in short, that we'll be going over the hills on what is technically sections like the Pennine Way, not just the Hadrian's Wall path. Now this means distance-wise we're expecting this to be closer to 86 miles and hit a much higher total ascent. Look at this, walking already, that doesn't bode well for the journey. And this is supposed to be one of the flattest parts of the route. So we've broken this down into 5 key sections. This one is section 1 and it goes from Bowness-on-Solway on the left to Low Crosby on the right, and going past Carlisle across the north of it, and it's around about 19 miles in length. Now the way we've managed to do this without paying out massive amounts of money is with a support team, which basically consisted of 2 couples who would provide all of our water drops, food drops, and even provide us with places to change and kit overnight. So without them, this wouldn't have been at all possible. Now they wanted to remain anonymous, but you may see them popping up now and again throughout the journey. So an extra special thanks to all those involved, because without you, none of this would have been possible. Apologies for the blurry footage, but that is rain at its best. Hey ho, it does help to obscure my somewhat obscene leggings. As you might have assumed, starting at 3:30 meant we had to be up at some ungodly hour. We're up at around about 2 AM, which sadly for us meant we didn't really get too much sleep, just laying in bed listening to the rain, which is a really great way to neg yourself out before such a run. But sadly, this also means that we're also a little bit sleep deprived before we've started, which may explain my jaunty headway. I've absolutely no idea what was going on there. Even more steps. Now one of the benefits of this route is that we are just skirting around the north of Carlisle, which means that we don't actually have to go into the city centre. And by all accounts, most ultra runs that you'll see actually start from Carlisle. So everything, all of this footage is kind of the unseen part. So unless you're actually going out on a multi-day walk, it's rare that you would see this section. I'm not sure why. It's actually quite a pleasant route by all accounts, other than the bloody steps. And it has to be said, Carlisle does have some nice parks for an excellent respite from the rain. Now, one of the biggest benefits of an ultra run is, of course, that it gives you the opportunity to continuously stuff your face. So many people have commented in the past that it is basically just like a moving picnic. So you'll have to forgive my chipmunk cheeks throughout the entire length of this journey. Now, I mentioned before that my wife and I have indeed done the Hadrian's Wall path in the past. We actually did it over a 5-day walk. And the last time we did it, our first stop was in Carlisle. And I can tell you now, my feet are already in much better shape than they were when we walked it, because I was covered in blisters by this time. Now, interestingly enough, this is something that I remember from the walk, which is this random tower in a field, which when you generally see it, you go, oh hey, look, this must be the start of the wall. But I don't think it's got anything to do with it, and I have no idea what it is. So if anybody does know, please feel free to leave a comment below. So that's section 1 completed already, and here's a photo of the bus shelter in Low Crosby, where we were able to top up all of our water, kindly left behind by one of our support crew. As you can see, I did have the opportunity to have a quick change of clothes that were being carried in my backpack. It does make a huge difference. Being able to change your socks, being able to change soaking clothes, it really does keep you motivated. So here we're on section 2, which is Low Crosby to Longbyre. So section 2 is only 17 miles long, he says only, which will take us up to Longbyre, where we'll get an opportunity to have a proper rest. Nearly 7 hours in, and we have wall. It's actually really surprising, especially when you're walking, how long it takes till you actually see some of Hadrian's Wall. So this is the first main structure that we're coming across. Just like pay for stuff that fortunately we don't have time to go and have a look at. But like most of these things, once you start seeing it, you can't get away from it, which is kind of a good thing. It means at least you know you're on the right path. Even if that means you're running on the wrong side of the wall. Sometimes when you're moving at pace, it's actually really hard to see signposts in time. Now, the reason for this challenge was really just to give myself a goal while attempting to regain my fitness in my mid-40s, which is the whole purpose of this channel. Now, the wall was chosen for a couple of reasons. One, we'd already walked it, so we kind of knew what we're up against. And two, the scenery in good weather is really, really great. But then so many might say is South Downs Way or the Cotswold Way, both of which are longer and would pose a bigger challenge. This path, however, has one added benefit, which is being able to say that we've actually crossed from one side of the UK to the other in one day. As mentioned earlier, there are several organised ultras that use this route, but they mostly seem to be focused on the road, which makes sense from a support standpoint, but it seems to miss the mark for us. One, they're really expensive, and that's not to say they don't need to be, it's a hell of a thing to organise, but two, we're not really interested in medals, t-shirts or time. A route this long, in my opinion, is all about the achievement, period. I'm trying to regain my fitness. I'm not delusional. I'm not expecting to win any records because I am well past my window of opportunity to achieve any kind of peak performance.
Reach the wall.
There we go, scandalously walking across some UNESCO World Heritage Wall there, never mind. So we are just around the corner from our next stop now, where a couple of our friends live, which, let's be honest, that's another excellent reason for picking this route. I mean, the opportunity to have a shower, change your clothes, change your footwear, more on that in a second, and of course sit down and have some proper food is some pretty executive first-class stuff and must be fairly unheard of on most ultramarathons. Coming back to footwear, at the start and end of this route, my plan was to wear cushioned running shoes, simply because of the amount of tarmac at the start and at the end, and then we're going to wear trail shoes for the hilly bits in the middle. Now that plan, of course, was based on a sunny summer day, which sadly wasn't to be, but thankfully we started in trail shoes, and quite frankly I'd have been on my arse several times by now if that wasn't the case. However, neither of us have waterproof trail shoes. I nearly bought some not so long ago, but went for the standard ones, as let's face it, it was summer. Who needs heavy Gore-Tex running shoes in the summer? I'm a fair weather runner anyway. This means that effectively by this time, both of our feet were completely sodden. And the impact of running with wet feet, even if you are lucky enough to be able to change your socks but putting them back into wet shoes, they don't stay too dry for long, which at the end of the day does start to impact the health of your feet. So if you were ever wondering what 35 miles running in waterlogged shoes does to your feet, you will be able to see very, very shortly. Now, what you can't tell from the camera is that all those folds in the skin had become so deep that my feet had actually started to split. Now, thankfully, we both brought a second pair of trail shoes with us on the route, so that meant that we were able to change at Longbyre and carry on with completely dry footwear. Now, out of Longbyre and back on the trail, we were really lucky with the weather in section 2, but just as we started off, it started to rain again. So typically brand new shoes and soaking wet rain again. Now this next section to Chester's Roman Fort is basically the hilly scenic bit we all know and love. It's 19 miles in length, but due to the rain, we did have to rethink our kit right at the last minute. So we basically opted for full waterproof jackets and walking poles. Now, neither of us have ever used walking poles while running, which is almost certainly not the best thing to do when you're actually out there on such a long route. But they are without a doubt one of the greatest things in the world when it comes to hills and determining how deep puddles are. So from what I can remember, there are some quite amazing views from here. Sadly, today the weather is definitely not on our side. At least it's nice and calm, that's something. View from the tree point. Hey, on a positive, at least we are now going downhill. Now at over 35 miles, we are now well past our longest run to date, and it's quite telling. I've seen plenty of articles that say if you can run 30 miles, you can run 100. But in a word, that's bollocks. If you can comfortably run 5, you can probably run 10. If you can run 15, you can probably run a marathon. If you can run 30, you can probably run 40 to 45. But after you reach your limit, it's a bit more like Rocky said. You just have to keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Carrying along what is now a furry wall, we'll soon be heading up to the main scenic areas. The first one being here, which is Mile Castle 39, and then of course the infamous Sycamore Gap. We're around about 40 odd miles in at the moment, and the walking, as you can see, has started, but at least we do have the views. In my mind, I would have loved to have run more here, but the path was so steep and slippery, mixing that with being so tired, it's just not a good combination. So here's the moment you've all been waiting for, the Sycamore No More Gap. So if you weren't aware, it was Sycamore tree that was here was cut down by some idiots last September. Now from what I understand, they'd actually planted a new tree in the area to replace it. What I didn't know was that when they did that, it had to be removed because Hadrian's Fort is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So from what I can gather, they're just hoping that the stump will come back to life, because we've all seen how good that looks in residential areas where they felled trees. Anyway, moving along slowly, we did get some really nice views from the other side. Stuffing my face again, but the weather has dried out, which is great news. And I should mention at this point that we are still raising money for World Child Cancer for this event, and I'll leave a Just Giving link in the description. So if this video inspires you to do something crazy, like go coast to coast in 24 hours, or not as the case may be, any and all donations will be going to a good cause, and an extra special thank you to anyone who has already donated. Just coming up slowly now to Housesteads, past Mile Castle 37, which is where our pacer leaves us. Now you may be thinking I've just been really courteous by cutting our pacer out. It's actually more that I just couldn't keep up. Now this 19 miles has to be without a doubt the slowest so far, and quite honestly I'm too tired to pick up the running again at this stage. Now my secret weapon was waiting for me at our next stop, which was a dry pair of running shoes. Now section 4 was from Chester's Roman Fort or Chollerford all the way up to Heddon on the Wall.
Okay, so it is, not that you can really see me very well, 20 past 3 on the Monday. We are around about 14 miles away from the wall, so we've not made it. Moving time, we are still within our 24-hour challenge, but we're just gonna crack on and get this done as it is. So we're in a place called Heddon on the Wall, and yeah, now we've just got a trailway all the way back, and as you can see, the breath steaming. It's a little bit fresh, but the sun should be up shortly, and should be able to show you a bit more interesting footage. If you can call Newcastle interesting, I'm sure lots of people are. And we'll see you in a minute.
Now coming out of Chester's Roman Fort with my brand new dry trainers, I managed to step straight into a puddle. You couldn't write it, to be honest. Now the route of Chollerford is really a very steep road that just seemed to go on and on forever, so I didn't get any really useful footage. Now that section did lead me into a semi-hallucinating state where I started seeing demonic faces in road markings, which kept me occupied. Here we are on our final section in Newcastle. I think my face pretty much sums it up.
And quelle surprise. Today's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, it's nice and warm. Can't complain about it. It is nice to have some sun on the skin after a full day of wet. We're in Newcastle, as some of the clips will have shown. And we're just going to go straight through to Wallsend. This is without a doubt the hardest thing I've ever done. There we have it. Okay, so we made it to Wallsend. Physically and mentally, I don't think I've been in as much pain in my life. So yeah, now sleep I think is the most important thing. And yeah, no more ultras. The aftermath of the feat.